Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? I know I'm not the Monday Morning Racer. I am Slam and Sam, his co-host on the Competition Plus Power Hour, but I am jumping in as Lee is on the road with Funny Car Chaos, doing some great things, hosting, flow racing, everything like that, and he asked me to come on and help him with the show, so that's why you're seeing my face and not his right now. He's currently at the track. Having a good time. So I'm going to jump on. Again, my name is right over here, Slam and Sam. Outlaw Performance ENT. You can see me at the track doing interviews, podcast, In the Groove podcast, and check me out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Go over and hit that like and subscribe. But without further ado, I am going to bring on the man, the myth, the legend, the Monday Morning Racer, Lee Craft himself. Yo, Lee.
Hey, Sam. Man, it is good to have you helping out. Thank you. Appreciate it. As I have said regularly, when I'm on the road and trying to do these shows from the phone, it can be done, but it's challenging. So thank you for hitting the ones and the twos, the buttons, the electronic buttons. I don't know about you, but every now and then I do wish there was like buttons to actually push for StreamYard. There's something about hitting a button. It's just satisfying.
Well, I mean, if you want to hit buttons, you can buy my Roadcaster, and then you can actually hit buttons. Like, you liked it, so you obviously saw that it's for sale. I'm upgrading, so I mean, hey man, great to do podcasts on the roads. It's easy, control everything. So look into that, Lee. I would give you a smoking deal. But man, it looks sunny where you are. I mean, it's 7 o'clock here. It's still sunny here. But if you stay in the sun too lately, you might be as red as that T-shirt that you're wearing.
I very well could be, man. I have to be careful in the sun. That's why I wear the shades. I put sunblock on before I leave the motel. That's why I wear those funky sleeves. Everybody thinks like I'm just trying to be this character. No, I have to keep myself safe from the sun. That's why I wear everything. I wear the beard. The beard helps with UV and everything. So because I've actually had skin cancer already in my life. When I was a little kid, I had a little spot of skin cancer. They had to go and burn it out. So I have to be very careful about being in the sun, though I love being in great weather like this. It's not too warm, in my opinion, here in Kearney, Nebraska. And Kearney is an interesting little town. It's a little college town right off of I-80. Got a neat little downtown scene. Just about any and everything you could ask for in a town. And it also, as a drag strip, Kearney Raceway Park, it is a neat little facility. I kind of get the Eddyville Raceway Park vibes, except you don't have a runoff into corn. You've got all the runoff you could desire. Apparently, this was an old airstrip. They did training during World War II, from what I understand or been told. So this is an interesting and cool area. And Sam, I think I've got the card there loaded up, but we have got, I think, an important guest. One of the most important guests I think I've possibly ever had on this show tonight. That's Gerald Kramer, the man at Eddyville Raceway Park. What a beautiful facility. What a gym there in the state of Iowa, just outside of Oskaloosa, or Oski, as everybody wants to shorten it to. And he's going to be able to give us some great insight of being a track owner and operator and what he does and the big events they have. And we'll talk about the infamous shutdown and everything that takes place at Eddyville and the big events they have. And it is a destination racetrack. If you have not raced there, you need to race there. If you have not attended a race there as a fan, you need to take some vacation days off, get the RV, get loaded up, and go camp out at Eddyville Raceway Park and experience all that it has to offer. It is worth the trek. First time I ever went there, it was last year. Nitro Chaos. Actually, it was on my birthday, so I treated myself for my birthday, turning at the time 33, to nitro drag racing with fuel altereds and top fuel dragsters and funny cars and front engine dragsters at Eddyville, Iowa. First time I'd ever been to Iowa, and it was definitely worth the trip. And Gerald's a cool dude. First time he ever saw me, he's like, man, I appreciate your show. You're doing a great job. And always have had a kind and encouraging word from him, and he'll shoot you straight as well. So I can't wait to chat with him near the bottom of the hour.
Oh yeah, Lee, and I'm gonna keep my ugly mug off off your show because I do have the face for radio. But you said there's no corn. Actually, here I'll do this. You said there's no corn, but there's a lot of it behind you.
No, there's no corn in the shutdown area. There's plenty of corn. Matter of fact, I mean, there's nothing but corn, beans, and freight trains out here. That's what's out here.
Yeah, that's why. Like I told you, you got to scout me out some deer around the racetrack because I mean I know that there's got to be some massive deer out there for me to shoot.
Look, I stayed, and thanks to Matt Nissen, I believe that's how you say his last name. I've got to get it correct for later on when I interview him. I've got to fix that. He runs the Running Down a Dream Funny Car and Funny Car Chaos competition. Stayed at his place in Alma, Nebraska, which is almost into Kansas. It's right on Harlan County Lake, and it is a beautiful spot. Dude, right there, some big deer. I saw some big does, saw some buck. You need to take a vacation to Alma, Nebraska. You can get some fishing in and get some hunting in.
I like it. I like it. We will talk about that. Hey, man, I'm going to bring up this comment here from American Hot Rod ENT, a.k.a.
Sure.
Darren, as he took your spot on the Competition Plus Power Hour on Tuesday. You know, and surprisingly, this week he didn't get clowned as bad as he did the week prior. So, you know, it was good. It was good. But he's asking if there's going to be a backup girl competition here this weekend.
There is. It's sponsored by Spell Paving. There will be another competition. The competition was won in Eddyville by the lovely Veronica Gallegos. She was wearing her Wonder Woman outfit, and you can't go wrong with that. And Wonder Woman stole the show. But yes, there is a backup girl competition this weekend here at Kearney, Nebraska, at Kearney Raceway. For the action that we're about to see, almost again, 30 funny cars in Nebraska. Many of them have done the double, like Wayne Hoffman, the Wolf Pump Seafield winner at Eddyville Raceway Park. He is coming from Connecticut and is doing this Funny Car Chaos double. If you are anywhere near Kearney, Nebraska, if it's in driving distance, and, you know, driving distance to me is like 5 hours. So if you're within 5 hours of Kearney, Nebraska, this is the place to be to experience drag racing this weekend. Oh, nearly 30 funny cars again. We've got nitro burners like Terry Totten and Howard Motorsports. They're going to be out with the big show car that was at Ennis and that has been an NHRA competition. We've got classic, you know, Funny Car Chaos runners like Kirk Williams, who is the points leader stealing the show, and many other great competitors with all different types of combinations. This is going to be the only place you're going to be able to see nitro burners of the modern and nostalgia style, along with alcohol burners of the nostalgia and modern style, along with nitrous assisted funny cars and turbo funny cars and many other type of combinations out here in this field. If you love drag racing and you love funny cars, Kearney, Nebraska is the place to be this weekend. So, Sam, there's been a lot of news in the world of drag racing. So if you would, hit that drag news video, and we're going to give folks the breakdown. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there has been a lot of news in the world of drag racing, well beyond Funny Car Chaos, well beyond NHRA. And I think we need to start with, hopefully we get a little bit of insight even from Gerald later on, but the IHRA has been sold. Again, it's only been sold like 7 times in its lifetime, since the original owners and founders of it sold it. But the IHRA is an instrumental body within the world of drag racing. In fact, they brought along the Winston name and brand. So Larry Jeffers Race Cars, Jeffers Motorsports Park there in Missouri, which is a AHRA sanctioned track, and that outfit is alive and is out there. Well, he made a deal to get the IHRA. Now, within this, there are other rumors, there are other happenings of other individuals forming other outfits and groups, apparently. So the drag racing world outside of the NHRA definitely has a lot of rumblings going on, but I think we have an overall net positive with this sale. The group in which had it, I believe it was IRG Sports Entertainment, well, apparently they weren't doing that great of a job with the IHRA. It has been a shell of what it was just decades ago. I can remember going to IHRA national events and having just as good of a time, if not even better of a time, than an NHRA national event. And I felt like, too, when IHRA was strong, it made the NHRA that much better because there was direct competition. But with someone like Larry Jeffers at the helm, maybe we're looking at brighter days with the IHRA. But that is something that is at the top of the news. In other news, Empire Dragway, which is a beautiful facility up there in upstate New York, just south of Rochester, New York, they are going to be having the Northeast Outlaw Pro Mod Association this very weekend in competition with their Night of Fire program. And looking forward to them having a great show. A lot of folks mentioned that the Northeast Outlaw Pro Mod Association is another great outfit that puts on a stellar door slammer show. And Empire Dragway is a place that certainly deserves having big shows. They have made sweeping improvements and investments into that place, and they have made it, I dare say, the premier drag strip in New York. I don't think there's a nicer drag strip in New York. There are plenty of other drag strips, do not get me wrong, and many that I would account go run at and enjoy and experience. I think of Lancaster Dragway and Speedway. It's got to be experienced, but when everything else is compared to what Empire is right now, I don't think anybody in New York beats Empire Dragway. They have a pristine facility at this point. Plenty of runoff, concrete walls. I think they worked on the surface. They've added more paved pits. It is a great place to race. So if you're out there in upstate New York, you're around the Rochester area, or just a little bit south, you're in western Pennsylvania, check out this weekend Empire Dragway. It is worth the tow. We also got news of what to expect from the Texas Motorplex and the Fall Nationals with the Stampede of Speed. Yes, it is back, and it's hard to make it even better than what it was last year, but I'm expecting that it will be better than last year. It's going to actually kick off with the end of the Funny Car Chaos season. So the championship round for Funny Car Chaos will be the opening act for the Stampede of Speed. That's going to be 2 nights of racing, qualifying, then eliminations, and afterwards pit parties and ways for people to interact with the champions and the winners of that event. Then it rolls into a barbecue cook-off and rodeo and beer tasting, along with concerts, into Monday night, if I remember correctly, being Scott Palmer's Nitro Sideshow, where you're going to see some crazy, wicked, fast nitro burning cars come out and put on a good drag racing show. They once again have a Pro Mod shootout, which cannot be missed. It was stellar drag racing last year with the names such as Stevie Fast Jackson and Bubba Stanton in competition at the Texas Motorplex on a Tuesday night. We've got the Fan Fest is back, and hopefully my plan is to go live again from the Fan Fest as I did last year, and that was a great time. Not just 1, 2, 3 drivers ready to sign autographs, but it seemed as if it was the whole entire NHRA field was in the park at Waxahachie signing autographs, and what a great time of food, music, and interacting with NHRA drivers before the Fall Nationals. The Fall Nationals themselves rolling in at the end of the Stampede of Speed. If you are looking for vacation still, and you're a race fan, I highly recommend the Stampede of Speed. Now, Sam, there are some photos that I would like you to bring up towards the end of this drag news segment about Shirley Muldowney. So if you would, Sam, look on those photos, bring up the photo of Shirley Muldowney with the gang, if you're able to, as I describe here what is happening. You can read this article on competitionplus.com, but Shirley Muldowney is not done. She is attempting to live out, I dare say, probably one of her last motorsports dreams, and that is go to Bonneville and run, over 450 miles per hour. You can see her there with this group that has been building a Bonneville car, not for this year, but for next year. And I'm sorry, but don't have my notes with me, and I fail to remember the name of this group. They're actually in Denver, North Carolina. I've got to see if I can pay them a visit. But there you see Shirley. She's been down to the shop, and there's also a photo of her in the cockpit. And she is getting ready to go to Bonneville, hopefully next year, and attempt to be one of the fastest women on the planet and just add to her resume of why, in fact, she is the greatest female racer of all time. Whether it's from drag racing or to the salt, she has got it sewed up. The queen of motorsports for sure. And at her age and in her condition, and when I say condition, don't get me wrong, I don't want to make it sound like she is old and decrepit. No, please don't misunderstand me. But you got to remember, from her accident that she had in '84, you can see her today. She doesn't walk very well. She doesn't get around very well. And yet she still has this tenacity to live out a dream that, as you read the Competition Plus article about this situation, that she thought she had sewed up to go experience the salt earlier in life, and it didn't happen. Well, it may very well happen next year, and I hope that does happen for her. So, Sam, man, what do you think about Shirley taking a trip to the salt? You there, Sam?
Yeah, I'm here. I think it's something like you said. You've made this statement before many a times of, what's going on or what could happen. But I mean, it's just one of those things where, we're seeing it from Mr. Prudhomme right now too. I mean, a lot of people are just doing things. They're living out, experiences that they wanted to do when they were younger or when they were in the racing field, and now they've taken the time to sit back and relax and enjoy what they've done. And now they're going into the standpoint of being, who they want to be, and they're still racing. They're racers at heart, and they love it. And I mean, how could you not? You know what I mean? I mean, if you have a bucket list of things that you can do, and you're privileged to get the opportunity to do them, why would you not take full advantage of it?
I completely agree. You got to love Shirley saying, "Hey, I'm going to still live out my motorsports dream at whatever age she is." Don Prudhomme, like you mentioned, doing off-road racing in the Baja 1000. I mean, how freaking cool is that? Desert Snake out there, not just competing, but winning in his class. Don Garlitz, just a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago at Mocan, cackling his Swamp Rat 12. So that's just freaking cool that you have these stars. And I would say the names we just mentioned being some of the top names in drag racing and motorsports, period, out there still getting it done. It's awesome, dude. Man, it gives me hope that later on I can be this old, decrepit dude with a mic. Sonny, how was that run out there in the car?
Lee, I got to say one thing, man. The way that you just kept your composure when that horrible screeching sound of tires and the tractor was going by, that's unreal. Like, I know Bobby Bennett has done videos of, that is the most annoying sound in drag racing. And it's so true. Like, I mean, it is by far the worst sound ever. But, man. And
a close second by some people's measure is my voice. God bless him.
Well, I mean, hey, I'm not right there. I'm right there behind you, or in front of you. Who knows? I'm not keeping tally. But, man, like you talked about, there's so much drag racing news going on, on the show. With Darren and I, we got the opportunity to talk about the things that are going on within JEGS. I have some insight there. You know, it's kind of breaking news to everyone what's kind of going on, and then it's just a little crazy that, you know, I mean, motorsports in general is changing. I've talked to a few people here this week that have pretty much said, you know, like our generation, you and I, we're the last of a dying breed. I mean, you know, motorsports isn't continuing the way it was, you know, in the generations before us. If you see it, we're having more tracks closed than anything else. And it's like there's no more fight to keep these tracks open. There's no more fight to keep people in cars. Everyone just wants to sit at home and play video games. So hopefully with the NHRA video game coming out, if you haven't done so already, order it. If you're not a video gamer like myself, then hopefully you have a friend that likes to game and you can do that with them. But I mean, hopefully we can get this culture back and continue to see, you know, tracks stay open and continue this dream that was lived out by some of the greats, and they're still doing it. So, you know, seeing the greats out there being able to live their dream, hopefully it gives, you know, one or two more people in little small towns, you know, some hope, and then it gives thousands of others hope to get back out there and keep racing.
Yes, and
Kenny,
I think there's a lot of positives right now in drag racing if we want to isolate drag racing. And there are other segments that you can focus on and make it seem extremely negative and like it's going down the tubes and this is the end and it's doomsday for drag racing. I tend to want to have a more positive outlook. I think of individuals coming up like Lexi Tanner in Pro Outlaw 632, along with Amber Franklin. Throw in Camry Caruso or a Will Smith hopping into Larry Dixon's car and, you know, willing to license in Top Fuel. And we've had several young folks begin to license in Top Fuel. And I think if even the Funny Car Chaos crowd, I think a lot of folks would look at the Funny Car Chaos crowd and think to themselves, hey, that must be a bunch of old funny car racers. That's all they are. But that's not the case. There are many racers running funny cars in Funny Car Chaos who are young. I think of Jade Cook. She just turned 24. I think of Nick with Razzle Dazzle. He's a young man. I think of Jordan Ballou. He's like in his early 30s. He's a young man. You've got a lot of people out here. And then take Chris Graves himself. He's a younger man. And you have him as a promoter pushing things forward for drag racing. I think what has to be understood right now is motorsports has got to change. And it's got to change with the times. Doesn't mean it's going to die. If it doesn't change, it will die. And that goes back to a point which I made last week, and I said I was going to talk about it this week. So for this burn down segment this week, let me bring back up what I mentioned, and that I believe the national event model for the NHRA is broken. That it is not the most effective model that the NHRA could employ to have success as a sanctioning body, as a product, as a show. So, why do we have these things called national events? We have national events because at one time, drag racing was severely splintered throughout the nation, and you had different camps: the East, the West, the Northeast, the Southeast, Southern California, and all over in different pockets, so the Midwest. And you have Wally Parks, NHRA, the Safety Safari. They begin to cobble together what we understand as NHRA champion drag racing, making it safer, giving rules and standardization. And naturally, you have everybody making statements like, hey, we're better drag racers than you. No, we're better drag racers than you. And how do you determine who are better drag racers? Well, you find a place to race and you race it out. National events served the purpose for people around the nation, not just to race regionally, but to race it out nationally in front of a national crowd composed of national representatives as racers to see who the top dog is. Well, that made a lot of sense when you only had one national event, 2, 3, 4, maybe even up to 8. But now we're pushing 20 plus national events. And honestly, they do not serve the purpose that they once did. I think it is grossly outdated with the current marketing that there is towards what? Nitro. As we stand right now, the show is Nitro. You look at radio ads, you look at billboard ads, you look at publications with ads within those publications like magazine. When was the last time you saw Pro Stock or Pro Stock Motorcycle in an NHRA ad? I imagine it has been a very long time because it's either a funny car or a Top Fuel dragster. We understand and we know that Nitro is the show. Am I saying that the other classes are not competitive? No, I'm not saying that. Don't hear me that way. Am I saying that they're boring to watch? No, I love Pro Stock. I love Pro Stock Motorcycle. But you have to agree with me and you have to see that the push, the thrust of the national event is Nitro. It is not Top Dragster. It is not Top Sportsman. It is not Super Comp. It is not Super Stock. It is not Super Gas. It is not B altered through Z automatic. It's none of that. It is Top Fuel and Funny Car. And I say this with many of whoever's watching that are sportsman racers or sportsman fans. They're not going to like this, but I believe for them to get the exposure, the marketability, and what is truly due to them, they need to be pulled from the national event, and NHRA needs to spend marketing dollars and time and effort to pump up those classes in regional, divisional, and standalone events for those classes. And where a national event is a show that is cut down from 3 days to 2 days, and is a show instead of spanning from noon or 11 to like 6 o'clock, it's spanning a far shorter amount of time, 3 to 4 hours. And you have within that show a lineup that looks something like Top Fuel Funny Car, Top Fuel Dragster, Pro Stock Motorcycle, Pro Stock, along with Top Dragster, possibly Top Sportsman, Top Funny Car, Top Alcohol Funny Car, and Top Alcohol Dragster. And to extend the ploy and the number of the national events, separate Pro Stock and Pro Mod occasionally and run door slammer centric events and promote the show that way, and give other classes more TV time, and separate and promote the separation. And I think you'll be able to lift a whole lot other classes up than just Top Fuel and Funny Car getting exposure. The model right now is broken. It's not working because all you hear about is sportsman classes getting the shaft. And Sam, you and me have seen that. At Vegas, it was shocking. You have one sportsman class in the lanes ready to race. They are booted out and another sportsman class comes in. That kind of stuff happens all the time. But if they had their own show, it'd be a different deal.
Yeah, that was definitely unfair. And I felt bad for those, drivers because they're suited up, they're ready to go. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, the NHRA officials are like, hey, you guys don't even need to be up here anymore. Like, go back to your trailers. And I mean, I get it. Like, it's a double-edged sword, and you take the good with the bad. And, these sportsman drivers, they love being there. I mean, they get a chance to run for a Wally. They get a chance to, be put on the main stage in the big show. So, I mean, it's a give or a take, but I mean, yeah, to be sitting in the lanes and get called out, I mean, that's got to suck. But I mean, these racers live in that life. They understand it. And, everyone's waiting for that opportunity for their chance.
Yes. And I think their chance could be a greater chance if NHRA would step forward and just admit, sportsman guys, At national events, you're not that important. Just admit it and make their events important and give them their events and promote them and have the social media team there and pump them up. Look, I think just about all drag racing is cool. Now, there's some classes I can't get into, but there are heads-up classes, even the sportsman ranks. Like, I believe it's Comp Eliminator. That is a fascinating class. Like, you have old pro stock cars going up against altereds, going up against dragsters. I mean, it is a fascinating class. They get no airtime. Why? Because they're at national events. And they're overshadowed by fuel, whether it's funny car or dragster. Top fuel dragster. I just think, admit it, stop yanking the chain of the sportsman racer and give them their own events and showcase their own events. Put them on NHRA YouTube. Figure out some airtime for them on TV. Put it on Flow Racing. Work that out. There's a way. It can be done. And I think for the future of the NHRA, they've got to admit they need to change their national event model, because as it stands right now, I believe it's broken. Sam, man, look, we are over the half-hour mark. It's time to get to our guest, Mr. Gerald Kramer, owner-operator there at Eddyville Raceway Park. So, Sam, if you would, hit the commercial for Destroyer 1320 and bring up that overlay for Between the Slicks as well. Ladies and gentlemen, Gerald Kramer next. If you own a beautiful modern muscle car like this 1320 Challenger, I'm sure you don't want it stolen. Because the Challenger and many other modern vehicles have an easily accessible neutral release strap. That was your coin holder in your central console, and beneath that there's this red cord that someone can pop, put it in the neutral, and potentially easily steal your car. But at Destroyer1320.com, they have the TDS, Theft Deterrent System, which is a cover over that strap using factory mounting points so that you don't get popped by a thief. So make sure to go to Destroyer1320.com using promo code MMR for 15% off and get your Theft Deterrent System TDS and steal the thieves' hope. Sam, is Gerald backstage?
Yes, and he is ready to go right now.
All right. Gerald, man, look, welcome to the show, Between the Slicks. Good to have you on. I've been trying to work this out for a while, and finally we've got it done.
Good to be on here, Lee, and thank you for having me, and thanks for all the kind words you gave me earlier. I'm not sure I can live up to those, but thank you.
Well, man, I appreciate that, and I thank you for you've always been really respectful and encouraging to me. I do appreciate that. I do take note of it. Thank you. First of all, what is your official title at Eddyville Raceway Park?
Owner, general manager. I don't know. I don't have any titles per se, but I do own it 100% with my wife. So I guess it goes from there.
All right. Owner, operator, man of many hats on the beautiful grounds at Eddyville Raceway Park. So, Gerald, look, I'll be honest. There's a part of me that looks at track ownership and I'm like, you know what? I think that'd be kind of fun. I think that'd be cool. Why not do that? And then I think to myself, no, those people are crazy. So why in the world did you get into track ownership, man?
It was more by accident than it was not planned. I never in my wildest dreams 20 years ago would have ever thought that I would ever own any racetrack. Or it was not planned that way. But when Eddyville came for sale in 2006. I was friends with Scott Gardner, who owned Cordova, and we were talking, and I was looking hopefully just to run the track maybe for him, but he says, no, I want you as an invested part of it, and that's how it happened, and here I am 16, 17 years later, involved fully.
Now, for someone to become a track owner in the world of drag racing, you don't just wake up one day and, you know what, I like this thing called drag racing. It just doesn't come to you out of nowhere. It's not a light bulb moment. What was it for you that brought you into drag racing, made you love it, made you to the point where you're like, hey, I'm willing to invest my life in ownership and operation for this sport to try to push it forward, at least maintain it? So where does it all come from?
For me, it started when I was in high school, 16 years old. Made a trip to Eddyville with some of my buddies, watched it, fell in love with it. I was working for my brother in the motorcycle shop at that time. I was into motorcycles, dirt bikes, and all that stuff. And that's where it started. The first thing I raced down Eddyville's track was a Yamaha 175 Enduro. And then it grew from there. And I raced motorcycles for approximately 20 years.
Wow. So during motorcycle, like, was it all drag racing? Did you ever do any flat track? Flat track's really popular in the Midwest. You know, what all within the world of motorcycle racing?
Well, not formal racing. We did a lot of hill climb stuff, enduro type, a little bit of enduro stuff, dabbled a little bit in motocross, but not really much. Mostly trail riding. We had a big motorcycle park not far from home here, and that's where it really got my start. But the drag racing thing started, the bug bit me when I was young, and from basically 69 through 89 was 20 years of motorcycle drag racing.
Wow, that's impressive. You know, hill climb racing and motorcycle hill climb racing in particular does not get enough credit for what it takes to accomplish in that form of motorsport. So, if you're a motorcycle guy, I got to ask, what's the favorite brand? You know, Harley, Indian, Yamaha, Suzuki. What brand really gets Gerald's hearts revving?
Well, I grew up around the Yamahas, and then I transitioned to Hondas. Never owned a Harley in my life. We've got a motorcycle event, all motorcycle event coming up next week, which there's going to be a lot of Harleys at, and I love all of it. I love the Top Fuel Harleys. When I was younger, I used to dream of riding a Top Fuel bike. That's long gone. I have no desire for that anymore. Love watching them, but my favorite. I grew up, like I say, I've gravitated from a Yamaha 650 to a 750 Honda, and back in the early 80s, had a turbocharger on it, which was very, very rare. On a turbocharged anything in the early 80s was a pretty rare deal. And that's a bike that I had the most fun on ever. And I sold it, and I did find it here a year ago, and I've been trying to get it bought back, but haven't got that accomplished yet.
All right. So you mentioned Eddyville, you getting the drag racing bug biting you at the very track that you own now.
Yes.
And operate. And you've got a few gray, white hairs on the top of your head. So we respect that, but you've been around a while, and Eddyville, therefore, has been around a while too. So give us some of the backstory of Eddyville Raceway Park, its history, and then in general, its importance to the area for motorsports and drag racing in particular.
Well, it opened in 1965. The family that owned the land and ran it still live across the road, right behind the burnout box there, John Rempe, and he's still alive. He's 90. I think I seen him the other day. I think he's 90. He got it started, had a lot of different managers. He didn't so much run the racing part of it, but owned it, and it, he built it until he sold it in 1993. And but it was a lot different than it is today. The pits were on the north side of the track. The south side, where the pit area is now, was a very small spectator area, gravel return roads. When I first started racing, we did not have a Christmas tree. The handicaps were measured in feet. It was all class racing at that time. And then, of course, that changed later on in the, late 70s, probably went to bracket racing. But just a lot of changes at the track. And And then when Carl Moyer bought it in '93, he's the one that put all the money into it and made it what it is today. Without him, Eddyville wouldn't be much.
Well, Mr. Gerald Kramer informing us on the dark days of racing that have long gone by us.
Yes.
Wow. I
Yeah.
can only imagine measuring handicap in feet.
Yeah. It was rather strange deal, but at the time, that's the way it was done. If you were the slower car, you got the left lane. There was no lane choice. The only one that had feet marked off was on the left side. So that was about 1 or 2 years, and then they got a Christmas tree in, and that changed.
Wow, that is fascinating. Fascinating. So, Eddyville Raceway Park, your owner, operator, many hats. What else is your family involved in at the track, and who all is involved in? And I'd ask this to give yourself just an opportunity to brag on the rest of the family members who are helping you out, because many of them are, such as your son.
Yeah, son Kyle. I'm not sure I would do it without his help, even though he's got his own business and stuff, but he's there. You've seen him at the big events, very instrumental in doing everything, running the event. On the big events, I'm pretty much not involved. I just making sure if there's anything that goes wrong, that it gets taken care of. And he runs the show, and he's a huge part of what we do. And he does all my social media stuff, and absolutely couldn't do it without him. And, so my daughter helps. She doesn't live real close to here, but she works the spectator gate on the big events, and my wife's involved in different forms. But Kyle is absolutely my right-hand man.
Very cool. I'm glad that's the case, and your son is right there along with you in the world of racing, and it's a family affair. That is cool to hear, and I'm glad you all are able to experience that and have that lived out within your own lives. Eddyville Raceway Park, the first time I visited it, everybody had said, oh, it's a great track, you got to go there. And then I get there for the first time last year for Nitro Chaos, and honestly, everybody had lied to me, and not that they had lied to me and stated that it was great. It's like they didn't sell it up enough, in my opinion. It's better than what they told me. You do have a fabulous facility, and as great as it is, I'm sure as a owner, there are dreams, there are thoughts, there are plans to make it that much better. So what is on the horizon for Eddyville Raceway Park, 5 year, 10 years out?
Well, we've accomplished or did a lot of the things that we really wanted to do. The biggest project that I'm going to go back about 6 or 7 years ago, the track needed resurfacing, which we redid, and now it's concrete from start line to finish line, which was a huge deal. We've resurfaced the shutdown area once since we've been there. And then 3 years ago now, we started what we call Build the Wall project. And that was trying to replace the Armco barriers with concrete barriers. And there's where the racers, sponsors, just a whole bunch of people came together. And I'm not one that likes to beg for money. I just don't. But a lot of people said you need to put it out there. And I was amazed at how much labor, money that racers donated to us as a track to put the concrete barriers in. We're not done with that project yet. It's got another about 250 feet on each side to do. I don't know if it'll be done this next year or year after. We started doing a few restroom upgrades. Again, we're not the worst one, but we're not the best either there. A tower, I would love to do some things there. But it's all money driven, of course.
All right. Well, folks, look, if you are looking to invest in a great racing facility with a vast heritage and I think a bright future, you definitely need to contact Gerald and talk to him about Eddyville Raceway Park and helping out on some of those projects, because those projects could definitely help be great additions to what you all do as a track. You don't just have a bracket program. I mean, you have that, and I'm sure it's stellar, but as a 8th mile only facility in Iowa, considered flyover country,
Yep.
your track has some big events, from Funny Car Chaos to Nitro Chaos, and upcoming the World Fuel Altered Nationals. So give me some of the breakdown of these specific big events to Eddyville, how important they are, and why competitors need to come race at your place.
Well, they're very instrumental. The Fuel Altered Nationals, this is our 17th one, I believe. We started it in 2006, and I've got to get all the credit to Scott Galter, who owns the Nitro Madness Fuel Altered. He is the one that was instrumental in bringing up the idea and also promoting it for up until this year. He still has his car, but he's retired from his business, and so now myself and Scott Gardner are doing the promotions on that thing. But that event has grown from a very small deal with, I don't know, I think maybe 10 or 12 cars the first year. The highest car count we had in 2020 was 30. Usually we're around 20. And so that's grown into its own event and very unique, fuel altereds. I don't think there's anything else like it in the country with that many cars on the grounds. The other big one that you haven't mentioned is our Musco Lighting Night of Fire. Musco has been on board with that event from a long, long time ago. I think it's 26 years now. And that's a booked-in event on the 4th of July weekend. It continues to be one of probably our biggest event of all. And we bring in a lot of sportsman racers on that one, and it's a 2-day points race. So it's different than the other ones. And then when Chris Graves approached me about doing a Funny Car Chaos, that would have been in the spring of 2020, yes, we could not. I absolutely jumped on that in a heartbeat. And then when me and him were talking, we both had visions of an all nitro show of some kind, and therefore Nitro Chaos was born. And without Chris's promotional efforts on those two events, and they're just, the Nitro Chaos again is not like you've been there. There's nothing else like it.
There really is not anything quite like it, and it is a spectacular show. And I mean, the whole reason I went to Eddyville to experience Nitro Chaos is because I'm like, this is a drag racing come true. I have always wanted to see all these different types of cars on Nitro race against each other, and it finally happened. And for this past weekend, I mean, congratulations to you, the whole crew at Eddyville Raceway Park. Over 30 funny cars for Funny Car Chaos in Iowa. Who would have thought that would have ever happened?
Not me, especially not this year. I mean, with high fuel prices and stuff, the cost of travel, that has hampered a lot of events. And I don't know that there's ever been, I think we actually ended up with 33 or 34 cars on the grounds. I don't know that there's ever been that many funny cars at any one event in the Midwest, at a small track, never, probably. And big, shout out to Chris Graves on that, because his promotional and the whole Chaos series is just fantastic.
So Waterbug85 asks, with winter being hard on racetracks, and I'm sure that's the case in Iowa, how often do you have to resurface or repave Eddyville? So you just mentioned did surface work. How long of a lifespan does it have in Iowa for you all?
Well, the asphalt becomes a problem. I can't remember the exact year. I'm thinking it was 2015 or 16 that we redid the shutdown area, and that is asphalt. And it's got some problems again. Asphalt is constantly in need of maintenance. When we decided to repave the track, it was easy decision for me to go concrete all the way. I really think that what we did with that part of it I think that thing will never have to be redone in my lifetime. Maybe it's like grinding sometime to smooth out any, but that the concrete surface is so much easier to scrape, to maintain. It's easier to dry when it rains. There's just everything. I dearly wish my whole track shut down and everything was concrete, because the asphalt is a constant maintenance, and it's worse in up here where we have the freeze thaw cycles.
All right. We've danced around it a little bit. You've mentioned it, and I think I've mentioned it, especially at the start of the show. Eddyville may have the most infamous shutdown area in the country.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about shutdown area, and in particular the corn, because like there's a lot of people out there on social media. I don't think they understand what's going on at Eddyville, because Dave's adventure into the corn is probably like the very, very bad side of it. And
Yes.
that got a lot of exposure.
Yes.
But then there's also like Twist and Shout, which had a very, I'll say, mild exposure to the corn and was racing the very next day. And I would say that most of the time, that's what actually happens. People go in the corn. It's not that really big of a deal. They're racing the next day. Yeah, drivers' meetings, first-time visitors racing, what is the protocol? What is Eddyville Raceway Park saying, like, guys, this is what you do?
Well, it's like Chris Graves said at the drivers' meeting. We do not have the longest shutdown in the world. We do not have the shortest. It is 1,700 feet from the finish line to where Dave launched his funny car. And we've had, Scott Palmer went 265 miles an hour on our track and made it around the corner just fine. A lot of, and Dave's, and I could say that probably almost anybody and everybody that's been off the end of the track had a parachute problem of some kind, either none or way late or drove it way too deep. If we have, we've had a lot of funny cars going 220, 230, jet cars going those kind of speeds all the time. And if they have, especially if they have carbon fiber brakes, there's no problem. It's not ideal the way the thing was set up. And if I was to build it from scratch, I would not have had that circle track where it is at. It does make for a very nice turnoff and a lot of wide parking. Don't have the issues with the funny cars getting jammed up down there because they can't get off the track. They can get off the track very easily. It's just that you have to be on the chutes on time. And if you got good brakes, I had a nephew of mine with basically a top alcohol dragster. He had a chute problem and he went off there kind of like Dave did, long ways out there, destroyed his car pretty much. And then he put carbon brakes on it when he got it back running again. And I think he could stop by the second turnoff now without chutes almost. And it makes a big difference. The only other, we've had Top Fuel motorcycles there. We had Sam Wills there again this year, and he went long this year. But he was, that's pushing 200 mile an hour on two wheels. And he was late on his chutes, but he was fighting the bike, and then you can't always do that. You can't. So there's a lot of elements that go into it. It really, I think, in the 16, 17, whatever years I've owned it, we've probably had 5 or 6 cars that were damaged. One of the first ones, I'll get back up a little bit. When we bought the track, and you've seen that down there, the guardrail for the circle track used to be in front of the whole shutdown. There was no opening there. And in 2006, at the inaugural Fuel Altered Nationals, I never liked that setup, but it was there, and we just accepted that's the way it was run. And when we had a car, literally nitro fuel altered, it wasn't super fast, but fast enough. And I got videos of it. The candles were still lit at the first turnoff. That's an eighth of a mile past the finish line. And it didn't turn out well for him. And he hit that guardrail, and luckily he had some injuries, but pretty minor. I didn't think that anybody could live through what he went through, but that was the end of that guardrail. It came out, and it's never been back since. We've taken some of the turn out of there. We've made it better than it ever was. When he went off there, there was trees out there. There was rocks in the creek. That's all gone. We've improved that. I got a neighbor with the cornfield there that is very, very forgiving, and it isn't perfect, but the corn slows them down. You've seen that, like I say, with Twist and Shout. A number of years ago, Anthony Whitfield with Mighty Mouse Fuel Altered. There's videos out there on YouTube. You've probably seen it. He went into their long too, and the corn does an amazing job of stopping them. And his car too had no damage. We could put a catch net up there, but if we would have had a catch net there, we would have had 2 destroyed funny cars this week instead of 1.
Right. It's fascinating that people, if they go off to the left and hit the corn, it's actually not that bad.
No.
It's fascinating. I don't know. You would think hitting corn would be more damage incurring, but I mean, I've seen it myself. Dave's situation was he landed and hit the ground first. It wasn't the corn,
right?
And then slid through the corn.
Yeah.
Sam, there's a photo of this past week's carnage in the corn. If you can pop that up so folks can see what we're talking about here. And while Sam tries to find that photo and bring it up, Gerald, I do have to ask, you said that your neighbor was forgiving, but how's that phone conversation? Well, Bob Farmer, we had 2 go in the corn this weekend. We're sorry. What is that conversation like?
Well, we plan ahead for this. I've got an acre of land on the very northeast corner of my property that is used for nothing, and I let him plant an acre of corn there, and that helps to cover any losses. And if we have no cars in the corn, he's got a bonus 1 acre of corn, and he's good with it. So thank goodness for good neighbors, and I also make sure he gets free season passes too, so he can come and enjoy the races.
There you go. I like it. I like how it's worked out. That's pretty cool, because it would be interesting by the end of the year to calculate, okay, we took out 1/4 of an acre of corn with drag cars running through it. And folks, as you're looking to the left of the left trail, that's Dave Gallegos and Nitro Clown. And to the right is the Twist and Shout funny car. His name, I can't remember. It escapes me right now. Twist and Shout goes off to the left, was A-OK. But Dave got some serious air as fast as he was going and landed, hit the ground hard, and slid that far. I was completely shocked when I went down, and I'm like, where'd the car go?
I know. Yeah. It's I think you've seen the sign somebody put up there too that it's the Eddyville 2022 corn maze. And
yes.
It is. We had one dragster super comp type car that went off. This was, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago. Throttle stuck on the car, and they were more on the left side, and that thing did a complete donuts down there. I mean, there were circles down there in the corn, and it was crazy trying to find that car. It was nuts. But again, not hurt. The car was hurt some, but the corn finally choked off the air to the carburetor, I think, and it was pretty crazy.
Wow, that sounds wild. Oh my goodness. Oh no, it wasn't aliens, folks. It was a drag car.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yes. So with Eddyville Raceway Park, everything that can happen there, the corn, the shutdown. I was shocked. I decided to do a little video and kind of think of myself as a driver. And I got my car at the 8th mile mark, and I'm thinking to myself, like, this looks completely different than when I film it, because your scoreboards, no wonder you all say, do not drive to the scoreboards, because I mean, what would you say? Like, there's 300 feet from the finish line to the scoreboard, something like that. It's a bit. It's a lot.
That's probably close. Yep. And if you drive it that deep, you could be in trouble.
Yeah. So, folks, if you ever go to Eddyville and drive, really pay attention to that driver's meeting, because it is filled with some fascinating information that you definitely need to take heart and put it in your driver's tool belt, if you will. So, Gerald, There have been some interesting things happening in drag racing, like the IHRA here recently. And you're an IHRA track, so could you clue us in on like your perspective and what the heck is happening with the good old IHRA?
Yeah, I'll try to hit on some things. There's probably some things I know more than a lot of people do, probably. But, a lot of people dream of the IHRA being what it was back in the day when they had national events and all that stuff. But I used to, they had national events in Cordova. I've been over there helping with those events. I love going to them. They were neat events. But through a lot of reasons, the IHRA the last few years evolved into sportsman drag racing and sanctioning tracks like myself. And for us as track operators, it's paradise. It's perfect. What they had going for us the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years is perfect for us as a racetrack. And I have no desire for IHRA to be anything but what they were. So all I can tell you is there's more than one entity that was trying to buy the IHRA. And everybody knows what's been announced. The previous employees of IHRA are working to form their own deal at this point. And as a track operator, I absolutely will go with them because they offer us what we need. The Summit Super Series for bracket racing is the best thing going, hands down. There is not there's basically only 2 sanctioning bodies that there is a few tracks that are AHRA, but it's either IHRA, NHRA, and the bracket finals, we're able to host one of those. Those things are just fantastic events for our bracket racers. And it's so I don't know what the new owners of IHRA have planned exactly, but I know what the guys that were trying to buy it. And there's a lot of politics that went on there. And understand that IHRA is operated with IRG owning them, but IRG had nothing to do with how the thing was run. Unfortunately, the IHRA as a sanctioning body was viable the way it was. And as I said for myself, and I know a lot of other track operators that I know, like Carl Blanton and many, many others, are on the same page. They like what we had.
So with IHRA and everything happening, great. Okay, we've got a rocky world in the sanctioning body situation on that side of the track.
Yep.
Tracks are a part of communities, though. And you're right outside of Eddyville. The principal town is Oskaloosa, Iowa. What is your relationship like with the communities? Some tracks have great relationships, and it's good for them. Other tracks, they don't, and it's rough on them. So where does Eddyville stand in the Chamber of Commerce mind of Eddyville and Oskaloosa?
I think very good. The city of Eddyville, of course, is very small, as you've seen. There's, I don't know, less than 1,000 people in the town of Eddyville. But and then you've seen it at our big events. I defy any racetrack to find a better fire department that covers our butts at the far end at our big events. The Eddyville Fire Department comes out and does a marvelous job with that. So that's a great relationship. We are a member of the Chamber of Commerce from Oskaloosa. We got a lot of motels that got a lot of support from in Oskaloosa. And we have no issues with issues close us down for any reason at this time, and hopefully that always will stay that way. But we have absolutely no problems with, and I think great relations with both towns.
Well, that's good to hear. And yes, Eddyville is an extremely small town, but it has one heck of a nice truck stop. And
Yes,
I can say from firsthand experience, the Everspring Inn, I believe that's the correct name, is a great place to stay if you're going to stay anywhere in Oskaloosa for a race at Eddyville Raceway Park there in Iowa. Now, we got to take some time. I love the menu options that you have at your concession stands, and you have some great food trucks come out. So, what is Gerald's favorite item? Me, I love the pork tenderloin off the food truck, and I think y'all have at your own concession stand a superb Frito pie.
Yeah, the Frito pie is kind of our signature deal that I don't know if anybody has it, but it's pretty cool. I can remember Bruce Kamada used to come out and do some of our announcing of our big shows, and he always talked about the Frito pie. And I, personally, the chicken strips in our own concessions is great. The barbecue trailer, the corn dogs, the corn dog stand there that we have at our big events. The best corn dogs around, period.
I love his little trailer. It's got Harry Gant Drive on the back of it. I'm like, yes, Harry Gant, Mr. September, every time I see it. So, y'all got some interesting food trucks coming out, and people can definitely be took care of while they're at your racing facility with some great grub on both sides. And I have been loving being in the Midwest, and like, it's pork heaven out here. Pork tenderloin, pork chops, and I've been having like breakfast skillet. I've been gaining more weight. That's what's been happening actually. But I get these skillets with like a pork tenderloin at the bottom and hash browns and gravy on top with biscuits. I'm like, man, I could stay out here. This is cool.
Yeah, and we have a great breakfast menu when we have breakfast at our own concession stand. Linda, just a short story about, one of the success for me is the longevity of some of my employees. And Linda, who runs the concession stand at Eddyville, has worked at the Eddyville concession stand for over 40 years. And her daughter, Jody, works at the gate, and she's been there for over 30. So it's fabulous to have those kind of people.
Wow, man, that is great to hear people that invested and must be loving their jobs to stay there. Wow, that is awesome, man.
Yeah,
wow,
they
that is so cool.
They do. That's their fun job. So
I hear you. That's the fun job. Very cool. Very cool. Well, Gerald, look, as we're winding down with you, last question I want to pose to you is, who else do you need to thank? Who else makes it all possible for Gerald Kramer, the Kramers, for Eddyville Raceway Park to be a successful raceway park? And I'll add to it, maybe two questions in this. What else do you have to say to your fellow racetrack owners and operators?
Well, first of all, for the track, it's all of our employees. We've had some employee shortage problems this year. First time really we've run into that, but we do have a lot of our crew, starting line crew and so on, that have been there for a long time. We probably, for a small track, I don't think there's any racetrack that has more sponsors at the track than we do. And I get some of that, but a lot of that falls on Joy Custer, who puts together so many of these things with a lot of her. All the motel stuff is done through her, and I could not do it without her. Scott Gardner, he's been my advice. I mean, we were partners in the business for a while. He's still my go-to advisor for anything and everything. But just the entire crew that we've got it's just fabulous, and they make me look good, because it ain't me at all. It's takes the whole team, and they probably heard that before, but that is absolutely true. As far as what to say to other track, every track is different. Every track has its strengths and weaknesses. We do some things that a lot of other tracks don't do, because one of several things: either they're successful for us, we love doing certain things. There's so many different aspects of the drag racing world today. It's not just bracket racing. It's not just big events. There's tons and tons of different little niches, and everybody finds their thing that works for them. I mean, I know there's one track in Western Iowa that does absolutely no bracket racing, and I think they survive. So do just fine. Everybody has their own thing.
Well, Gerald, look, I hope that you're able to do your own thing for many, many more years and do it successfully. And I think Eddyville Raceway Park has a bright future ahead of it. Keep the Frito pie good and keep the track good and keep everyone good there at Eddyville Raceway Park, because it is a good place to race. And I can't wait to be back there later. Maybe even this year, certainly in 2023. If I had the time, I'd definitely be at that World Fuel Altered Nationals. Folks, you need to be there. That's upcoming. Check it out. Gerald, thank you, man.
Thank you, Lee, and appreciate everything you do.
Thank you, sir. Sam, hey, hit that Power Built Tools commercial. Power Built Tools. You need to get them now.
Power Built Tools exemplifies innovation in the tool industry. From hand tools, power tools, and even tool storage. Check out powerbuilt.com for Power Built Tools. And remember, use promo code MMR15 for 15% off at purchase.
Well, great to talk with Gerald Kramer, owner of Eddyville Raceway Park there in Iowa. I definitely think some of those track owners and operators don't get enough airtime, so it was good to have him right here on Between the Slicks. Well, I'm done. I'm going to go find some grub here in Kearney, Nebraska. We got some funny car racers and teams checking the track out as the sun is setting over the corn here in Kearney. Sam, thank you, man. I appreciate the help for hitting the ones and the twos. Guys, check out Sam at Outlaw Performance ENT on Facebook and on YouTube. You can also follow him on Twitter. And as far as me, hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's free, and you're going to see great motorsports content just like this show, Between the Slicks, which airs Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Be right back here next Thursday where we will continue to talk drag racing. Until next time, God bless and keep the pedal to the